Hey everybody, it's been a while since I've uploaded a video and I apologize for that. Um, there's a story behind it that I will get into later. I am Alan. Hello, Internet, how have y'all been? Um, so, what have I been up to? Well, it's been a busy kind of month in a roundabout kind of way. Um, so, I guess I should start this off with I lost my phone, and that's kind of why I haven't been recording things recently. I got locked out of my Google account, and I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but it's difficult. I had to wait till I got my phone back before I could get back into my YouTube account, and back into my Google account, and back into all the other things that Google is connected to. And it was just it was a rough time. I ended up having to replace the phone. I have a new phone now, well, new-ish. It's an older version that my dad bought for me, and I really appreciate that. There's a funny little thing that happened there. So I got my phone back. It was wild. I lost my phone at the Hard Rock in Tampa, and I had a nice little freak out in the parking lot. That was fun. Um, and I kind of looked a little foolish, I won't lie. A grown man screaming in the middle of a parking garage is never really a good thing to be, But either way, this started an epic journey of bullshit and, headache, basically. At one point, my mom tried to call my phone, and I luckily have her as mom in my phone. And somebody picked up and was like, "Oh yeah, I've been waiting for someone to call this phone because I've had it, and I'm just wondering what I should do with it." And my first thought was like, if you found it, why didn't you just turn it into the lost and found? It's there. It's hard to find, but it's there. And whatever, either way, they decided to hold on to it and keep it, and essentially what happened is like we ended up playing phone tag for about a week, and then we had set something up to where my mom would pick it up from them at the Hard Rock at Tampa. They apparently play there all the time at the high rollers tables and the poker tables, and well, turns out the day that my mom was going to go and pick it up, they never showed up. So, I don't really know what happened. Maybe they just decided that it was easier to get a new phone and, just not worry about it. Which I can't fault them for. I mean, phones are expensive. They really are. And, I'm not saying given the same situation I would do the same, but I don't really blame them for doing that. If I can go out and spend $100 and get a new phone and not worry about any of that other stuff, like deactivation fees and whatnot, like they hadn't been using my phone, or at least using my Google account, and so I do appreciate that. So I don't know. Long story short, I ended up getting a new phone, and I ended up, we got it worked out. It took 2 weeks. It was a big headache, but we got it worked out. So it wasn't that big of a deal. It was just a small headache. I guess another a cool thing that happened recently was I performed my first 20-minute set of all new material at Coffee Culture for the Sunday open mic hosted by Tristan Harvey, and you can find that video up on my Facebook account, Alan Tyson Comedy at Facebook, and that went really well. I was surprised actually at how well it went. There's a lot of racy material in there that I wrote up really quickly and didn't expect it to do very well. And it was well received. I can't really tell you how awesome it is to go in front of a bunch of, and like give you a little bit of backstory with this open mic. It's not exactly the most friendly to comedians. You know, it's a bunch of high schoolers and a bunch of old people and kind of nowhere in between. So you have this very polar group of audience members, and it's hard to keep the attention on you. You know, it's a coffee shop, and kids have homework, and old people are hard to keep, you know, paying attention. It's kind of simple as that. But the cool thing is that, you know, even though I called the Russia investigation one of the most ironic things I've ever seen, and I talked about how child marriage is still pretty much legal nationwide. You know, the core of these jokes, the rapping is you know, ranty and kind of, you know, I hate to say the word edgy, but it is. The core of it is very moral and very, you know, strong. Just to give you an example, when I talk about the child marriage issue, it's one of those things that it's like, it's hard to take a country seriously that only one state has banned child marriage in the entirety of the 50 states, and they only did it just recently. Like, that's the crazy thing to me. And you know, what's wild to me is that, you know, homosexual marriage, like gay marriage, almost, like child marriage was legal before gay marriage was. You know what I mean? Like, that's wild to me, you know, and I don't know. It's one of those situations that, like, we have, like, people wonder why we have such a problem with pedophilia, but then they say things, but then, you know, the American government's like, well, we shouldn't ban child marriage yet. That's kind of a big step, don't you think? You know, but like, I don't know. It's just one of those funny things. I'm not going to do the bit for you guys right now. I'll let you guys see the video. And a couple of other things that went down while I was away. Me and 273 Records have split, or I've split from 273 Records. It was nothing bad or personal that went on. It was more of a, I'm going one way and they're going another way, and I wish them all the best luck on their endeavors. And, you know, they do the same for me, and that's where we're at. You know, it's one of those things that, like, I feel like when I got a good look at a lot of things, my perspective changed. You know, it went from, you know, it just changed. It went from, you know, this is great and let's just kind of be easygoing and not, you know, try to screw anything up or cause many waves, to some things are kind of odd, you know. And it's nothing about how they do business, and it's nothing about who they are as people. I still adore PK. You know, I love everybody that's on that record label. It's just, it's not for me. It's not my thing. And, you know, they respect that, and I respect them. Moving on. So I've realized that I've been seizure-free for like 2-3 weeks now, and it is freaking awesome. I have a lot more energy than I usually do. I'm sleeping full nights. There are times when I wake up and I just have to do something, and like that never happens. But something that I've realized is that, like, my seizures work with the seasons, which is kind of fucked up. Like, if anybody else out there who has epilepsy, like, please feel free to comment on this and, like, tell me if you have the same thing, because, like, I found that my seizures are much worse during the winter than they are during the summer. And I don't know if it works for anybody else like that, or if it's vice versa, or maybe you're more of a fall seizure person. it's just weird. It's weird, and it's funny to think that your disability works with the seasons. Like you literally have like a good season and a bad season. And it's just kind of one of those things that kind of like bends your mind a little bit. And I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting thought. Like it was one of those things that, like, when I was 7, it was winter when I was diagnosed. So, like, is it kind of like a psychological thing that's going on there? I don't know. But, I'm enjoying it while I can. I realize I got about, like, 6 months of it, and then, it's back to the grind, so to say. But, yeah, I'm just, preparing for all that stuff. My hair looks wild today. I'm preparing for all that stuff, and I'm just really enjoying being seizure-free, I think I know it's like a fleeting good thing, I know it's like on a timeline, like, the weird thing about being seizure-free is that you're always, like, you're enjoying it a lot, but you're worried about, like, when's that next seizure coming? Like, when is it coming? And, like, it can really, like, trigger you in a way to where, like, you almost don't want to risk having that next seizure. It's like, I found myself kind of sometimes going like, I'm not going to go outside because what if a cop car goes by and I just can't, I'm in an area that's not well lit and just the flashing lights just throw me off, and now I have another seizure. And I ruined this great, streak of being seizure free. And I know that's silly. That's, like, absolutely redonkulous. But it's real, and I know that's not the right mindset to have when you have a disability, like, the right mindset is like, if it happens, and we'll deal with it when it gets there. But, it's kind of one of those things that, like, how long can I be normal? How long can I continue to be a functioning human being before something happens that makes me non-functional, I don't know. It's wild. It's weird. You're caught between, like, being very happy about something and also, like, uncontrollably worrying about something. And it's just interesting to me. Another thing that happened was I had my first anxiety attack. Yay! Considering that everybody I know has had an anxiety attack, at least, at one point in their life, I would imagine, making it to 31 and not having one until then isn't that bad. I feel like I've punched a hole in my millennial card, so to speak, which is, doesn't feel great, but whatever. I'll tell you guys this story. So I was at this house party, and I'm already a little bit claustrophobic. And it's not like your average claustrophobic where it's like, I can't be in small areas. I enjoy small areas. I think it's like when you get a lot of people in these small areas, that's when I start to freak out. Like, I have a major fear of being trampled for some reason. And, like, saying it, again, sounds ridiculous. But it's real. Like, I'm not a huge human being. I'm probably about 5'7", weigh 140 at my best. Soaking wet, I weigh 140. And, so I'm not a huge person. And, when you grow up small, you find that, like, big people are your best and worst enemy at the same time. Like, I used to always hang out with larger people because, they make great protection and they make great hiding places. You can just kind of step behind them and nobody knows you're there, which is kind of fucked up to say, I know. But, if you need an out, maybe some kid is getting bullied in school or something like that, make friends with the bigger kids, like not like, older kids. I mean, like, the kids who are, large, who are barbarians, make friends with them. Like, they're all super nice usually, and, everybody could use a friend, man. Like, but anyway, back to this story. So I was in this house party, and like it started out with 7 or so comedians, and we're hanging out, and we're just kind of shooting the shit and smoking and having a great time. And all of a sudden, we're in the circle, and we're passing around a pipe, and we hear like super hard knock, like almost like a cop knock. And I have the pipe to my lips, and I'm like, oh fuck, and everybody in the room has the same thought. It's like, it's the cops. We couldn't have been more wrong. It turns out, excuse me, turns out our host, Lunchbox, shout out to Lunchbox, he's opening for Christopher Titus soon, and that's fucking badass. I don't care who you are, like, opening for Christopher Titus is like a notch in the belt in the comedian community. Like, opening for a national touring headliner with as much clout as Christopher Titus is badass. So shout out to Lunchbox for that, and like, if you haven't seen any of his comedy, check him out. You can find him somewhere. The dude is wild. So Lunchbox had invited some juggalos over, and we all look up, and we're expecting the police, and we see through this little like diamond-esque window 2 juggalos in full face paint, full jumpsuit, like, and my buddy Caleb Frost burst out laughing automatically and walks out of the room. It's just like, I can't handle this at all. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And needless to say, it was a little bit shocking. And not to say that, like, juggalos are bad people, but it casted a foreboding shadow on the party for the rest of the night for some odd reason. So more people start showing up. We're at 10 people. I'm starting to get a little bit weary. I step outside, smoke a cigarette. More people show up, and more people show up, and we're at like 20, 30, almost 35 people in this house. And it's a small house. It's not like this big mansion, and it's not like we're outside, doing it out there with amplifiers and stuff like that. No, we are in the living room. We don't even have a microphone to hold. And I'm just like, I'm freaking out at this point. Like, my arm's going numb, my chest is pumping, and it's tight, it's hard to breathe, and it is 87 some odd degrees in this house. There's no AC to speak of. And I was a featuring comedian that night, so I was going on third to last, second to last, something along those lines. And I'm watching the sets, and like, the crowd is very, very cool. Like, the crowd is dealing with what's going on, and they are awesome. They're dealing with it like champs. Like, I can't say anything better about the crowd than this. And so one of the comedians is up. He's the comedian before me, and I'm watching his set. And without really going into it or naming names, he kind of fumbles in a joke and then just says, damn it, and walks right out of the house, like, in the middle of his set. Which, I don't want to speak ill of the guy. I get it. We've all fumbled a joke, and we've all kind of said, well, I kind of want to escape from this set right now. Like, nobody's going to like what's going to happen after this. Or whatever happened, maybe, no, I don't know. I'm not him. Anyway, as the next comedian going on, though, it made it difficult for me, because, like, having to go on after a comedian walks, and especially when the crowd has not been against them at all, it makes a weird feeling for the room. Like, the crowd gets confused and unsure what's going on. The host is freaking out. I try to go find him. So I'm not there automatically to just walk on and take the brunt. Like, I walk out for half a second, and then I go, well, I can't find him, so I might as well just start preparing for my set and getting... I go into the kitchen, get myself some water. I'm just kind of waiting around, and the host finally just shouts from the other side of the house, Alan, just start your set. And I kind of stop for a minute, and I go, can I get an introduction, maybe? Like, just introduce me so that, like, the people know what's going on, that at least I'm going to be going on stage next, instead of this person's gone and now this person's here. Work with it. And after that, the host kind of goes, all right, well, here's Alan Tyson, your next comic, that kind of thing. And like, I get introduced and I walk on stage and I just pull 10 minutes right out of my butt. The set that I was going on stage with was not gonna cut it for what had just happened, and I adjust in the last moment, and it worked out. It worked out. The crowd was back in tune, and they were back ready for what was going on. But once I got off stage, I was all over the place. I couldn't even sit down to smoke a cigarette, and it was rough. It sucked, and my heart was pumping so hard that like I felt like I was either having a heart attack or a stroke or something was going on, and just a million things were going through my head that like. And Sylvia came up to me after my set and was like, hey, what's up? You did great, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I need a minute. And I was trying not to sound like an asshole and trying not to be mean, but it came out kind of rough, and it came out as like, I need a minute. I just need to go and do this, and then we can do whatever. And like, so I go and I walk around a bit, and I pace, and I smoke a cigarette, and I'm still not feeling great. And I'm trying to just calm myself down, to watch Lunchbox's set and enjoy the show and, talk to people. And I can't do it, when I get into those anxious states, I'm just not fun to be around. I am a complete asshole. I hate everyone and I hate everything. And so I just say, Sylvia, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here. I can't do it. And the whole car ride home, I'm just... I'm trying to get my hands to be, to feel things again, and, I'm listening to music, and I'm just trying to calm myself down. And Sylvia looks over and she goes, Boo, you are just panting. Like, you are breathing so hard right now. Like, do you need to go to the hospital? And I said, no. I mean, if we get back to the house and after a little bit of lying down and I can't get to sleep, yeah, let's head to the hospital. But let's see what happens first. And we get back to the house, and I lie down to go to sleep. I set up my little bed area and get in it, and about 10 minutes into it, my face starts to tingle, and I have a seizure. Just boom. And it was like a month of being seizure-free down the toilet, and I felt pretty defeated. I felt really defeated, actually. Like, it was... pretty terrible. I hated it. Anxiety sucks, y'all. So, I got that little experience under my belt, and talked to some of my friends on Facebook about it. Some of my friends who are in the military, and some of my friends who, deal with anxiety on a regular basis, and they gave me some tips, and, let's hope that it works out next time. And shout out to Matt Romano for helping me out with that. I really appreciate Matt. Went to high school with the dude, and he is an incredibly awesome guy, a loving father, and a great person. So, let's switch over to something fun, shall we? This is going to seem to come out of nowhere, but I rewatched Star Wars The Last Jedi recently. I've seen it probably about 3 times now. And I try not to form an official opinion on a movie until I've seen it a couple of times, just so I can digest everything. But I can safely say, like, The Last Jedi was one that I absolutely had to watch a few times, just so I could digest everything. The movie was... It was long, I'm not gonna lie. It was long, but it was so jam-packed full of stuff that it had to be that long. And I'm not gonna lie, the first time I watched it, I had my issues with it. Pacing was probably the biggest issue I've had with it. But if pacing is what's gonna turn you off from a movie, then like, tell me how much you loved how much you loved Return of the Jedi. That movie's pacing is awful. And I don't know. The things that I loved about The Last Jedi was a lot of it, actually. I loved the imagery and I loved the storytelling. I loved the character development between Rey and Kylo and Finn and Poe, and Rose was awesome as well. I thought Rose did a great job of kicking Finn in the pants and, teaching him what it's about to be loyal and, at least getting him to grow up a little bit and realize that he's been very selfish with what he's been doing in this galaxy. I loved Admiral Holdo's final scene. I thought that was incredibly heroic, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I thought the imagery of it was amazing. Starting just from the start of the movie, like it was one of those things that like Rian Johnson took Star Wars to a whole different level, and I think people aren't really appreciating that. And I understand that people don't like it when you mess with their fandoms. Yeah, I get it. I've been a Star Wars fan for a long time, but on the other hand, fandoms need to change. Our idea of what Star Wars is has been so limited from the first ones that we saw to the prequels that we saw that many fans didn't even really want to appreciate what Rian Johnson was doing. And I love that one of the first things that Luke does is he tosses the lightsaber over his shoulder, because like after watching it a few times, I realized why he did it. Why would I want a lightsaber when the last time I held a lightsaber in my hands, I created Kylo Ren. I created the person who recreated the Empire. I don't want this lightsaber. I don't want any lightsabers. I don't want anything to do with lightsabers. It was Luke saying, when I have a lightsaber in my hand, I'm not a Jedi. I'm some asshole with a lightsaber. But it was also Rian Johnson saying, like, things are going to be different. Things are going to be very different. And this lightsaber that Luke just tossed over his shoulder are your expectations for this movie. And you should do the same thing that Luke is doing right now. And I just loved the way Luke was portrayed. I thought that showing him as a defeated old hermit, as a defeated old person who had locked himself away and gone as far as to lock himself off from the Force, was brilliant. I mean, I'm sorry, but Luke cannot be the living God that we have expected him to be, and as that he turned into in the extended universe. Every character needs to have flaws. It's kind of simple. I loved the Canto Bite scene. I know this subplot gets a lot of hate. I loved it. I thought it was great. It showed war in a realistic manner. It showed the people who profit off of war in a realistic manner, and it showed that it's not just the Empire and the rebels who are caught up in all of this Star War. It's everybody. And I know a lot of people took it as like, oh, capitalism is bad, and just insert any political opinion you want into there. No, I don't think that was the point of it. I think the point of it was to show that, like, there's more hands dirty in this than it. Like, war is never so cut dry. It's never so black and white. There are more things to war than just two sides fighting. And I think that was one side of this war that we had never seen before. It was a side of Star Wars that we had never really seen before. We'd seen the political side, we had seen the straight up fighting side, we had never seen the private sector side of it. And I was very happy to see that. I thought it was great. Probably my favorite part of the movie, my absolute favorite part of the movie. The part of the movie that made me legitimately cry was the little slave boy using the Force to pick up the broom and, hold it like a sword at the end of the movie. I thought that was amazing. What Rian Johnson did there was he showed that, like, the Force is not some special thing to where only extraordinary people can wield it. It's not this thing that, like, you have to be a Skywalker or a Kenobi or, anything. It showed that anybody can use the Force. The Force is there for everybody, and all you have to do is tap into it correctly. And I think that was amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing more Force sensitives out there and seeing what they end up doing with it. And the thing about this movie is people say they shattered what J.J. Abrams set up, and I don't agree with that. Like, at all. Like, at all. J.J. Abrams stayed on as a producer. If he didn't agree with what was going on, he would have said so. But yeah, some of the things I didn't like about the movie, it's very little there. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, the pacing was a little bit confusing at times. But other than that, I thought it was fun, it was interesting, and if you go into these movies without expectations, you're probably really going to enjoy them. And to those who really dislike this movie, I would say, give it another chance. Just watch it a couple more times, because not to be insulting, but maybe some of the themes just went over your head. They went over my head the first time, and the second time, and I'm sure I missed some other things the third time. But give it another chance. Come on. Watch it. You're a Star Wars fan. Give it a shot. Alright. I'm going to stop ranting about Star Wars The Last Jedi now. And I think I'm going to talk about a couple of things that have changed with me since the last time we've had a nice little talk. A couple of things that have changed is one of the biggest things is that my outlook has changed. I feel like I'm more critical of a lot of things now than I was even a year ago. I feel like I'm looking at things through a different lens. I wouldn't say a more enlightened lens. I would say just a more critical lens. Like, I don't try to jump to conclusions about things anymore like I used to. I feel like I at least will give it a little bit of looking into before I start celebrating or chastising a situation. I don't know. My outlook is just changing, and I think I can see it in my comedy. My comedy has become much more crass and much more critical of the things that try to dress themselves up as like we're helping you, but really we're getting our own interests out of it. I don't know. Evolution's weird, When you catch yourself changing, it's an odd situation, It's one of those things that, like, I wouldn't say I worry about where I'm going to end up with this kind of outlook, but more I'm interested to see where it ends, What was something else I wanted to talk about? There was something else I wanted to rant about a little bit. Oh, I was looking for some good, epilepsy vloggers on YouTube. You could probably call it a vanity project. I was just looking to see what was out there and what people were saying. And I found a lot of YouTubers doing this thing called the seizure prank in public. Have you guys, if you've heard of this, like, I don't know, I am under the impression that my disability is not a joke. And if it is a joke, punch up. I mean, I think it doesn't do anyone good to go into a store and pretend to have a seizure. I feel like it disenfranchises how people are going to react when somebody actually does have a seizure. Or, on the other hand, like, it's also going to, if somebody walks into that store, like, say I walk into that store and I have a seizure, first of all, y'all are portraying the way seizures happen way too dramatically. Like, if you're going to do a joke about this, at least do it right. You know what I mean? Like, don't put fuzz tablets in your mouth and just start foaming at the mouth and flailing everywhere. That's not what seizures look like, man. Like, seizures, at least mine and a few other people that I've witnessed, they're not that dramatic. It's more of a, like, I'll stare off for a little bit, and then I'll shake for a little bit, and then I'm done. Like, if it's a really bad seizure, yeah, I'll start, drooling, but I'm not foaming at the mouth, So, I guess that's my major concern with this, is that, like, the way y'all are doing this prank is stupid. At least portray the seizure the way it's supposed to be portrayed. If you want it to be a really good prank, make the seizure look real. You know what I mean? Have them call an ambulance. Do something. But, like, just to, like, oh, I fell down and shook for a little bit, now I'm back up, I'm okay. That's insulting to me, because you didn't put in the effort to actually try to look like you were having a seizure. Let's talk about the serious issues here. Like, first of all, it's fucked up that you think that, like, just having a seizure in public is funny. It's not. It kind of screws up everybody around you. And, like, you're usually the one who's not freaking out the most. That's usually what really happens. Secondly, nobody's disability is something that an able-bodied person can make assumptions about and can make jokes about, because you don't know what it's like. Simple as that. You don't know what it's like to have a seizure, so you can't give a practical representation of it. Just like I don't know what it's like to have cancer, so I can't give a practical representation of it. I don't know what it's like to be in a wheelchair, so and, like, I know what the obvious argument is here. Is like, Alan, you use your epilepsy as a vehicle for comedy. Talk about, the hypocrisy of it all. And you're right. I make fun of my epilepsy a lot. I make fun of my epilepsy a whole shit ton. But you know what I do with those jokes? I use them to educate the crowd and audience in a way that they are having a good time. And sure, I might throw a couple of stupid ones in there, like, if you've never had a seizure while going down on your woman, do it. I might make those jokes, but at the same time, it's my disability, It's mine. Not to say that, like, I own the properties of all epilepsy, but it's one of those things that, like, I don't understand how somebody who doesn't go through the certain situation can really make that joke. It's not like Ari Shaffir making a joke about the Mexican Wall or anything. It's different. It's a lot different. It's the same reason why I don't make gay jokes on stage, or I don't talk about rape on stage. I've never been raped, so I don't know how to navigate that topic. You know what I mean? Like, in the greatest rule in comedy is punch up. Punch up. It's simple as that. Don't go after low-hanging fruit, y'all. And if that's your claim to fame, I'm sorry. Anyway, that's what's been going on with me. I've been I'm sorry that I haven't uploaded something in so long. I think a fun video that we will be doing next is Sylvia is going to make me pretty. She's going to put makeup on me and see how it turns out. Who knows how that'll turn out. Anyway, I hope y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all when I see y'all. Bye.